The sky was gray again. It always was these days. Thick clouds hung low, hiding the sun like a secret no one was allowed to know. Below them, in Zone 42C, life moved slowly. People walked with their heads down, eyes on the ground, never looking up. Not because they were sad, but because they had learned what happened when you looked at the wrong thing, at the wrong time. The Orcs ruled now. No one knew exactly where they came from, only that they arrived in silence and left fire behind. 30 years ago, humans fought back. Cities burned, soldiers died, and in the end, the aliens won. Now they controlled everything. In a small building near the edge of the zone, Ethan Morris worked at his station, putting together parts for machines he didn't understand. Beside him, Clara did the same. They were quiet most days, speaking, only when needed. They had learned that even words could be dangerous. At home, they had Lena. She was 6 with bright eyes and wild curls that refused to stay neat. She asked too many questions, Clara often said. Why can't we go outside the zone? Why do the screechers follow us? Why don't we fly anymore? Lena didn't understand fear the way her parents did. She saw walls and wanted to climb them. She heard rules and wanted to break them. But Ethan and Clara loved her more than anything, and they tried to keep her safe. One morning, while Clara cooked something that used to be eggs, Lena slipped out the door. She had seen something in the distance, a broken fence maybe, or an old tree that looked like it might have apples still on it. She liked exploring, even if she wasn't supposed to. She wandered past the edge of the zone, just a little, barely enough to notice, but the screecher drone noticed. They always did. It came fast, clicking and buzzing like 1,000 angry insects. It hovered above her, scanning, deciding. Lena stood still, hands up like her father had taught her. She whispered, "I'm sorry." But the drone didn't care about apologies. It had one job: enforce the law. And the law said that stepping outside the zone was punishable by death. Ethan heard the sound before he saw it, a sharp, high scream followed by silence. He ran. Clara ran behind him. People watched from windows but didn't move. They knew better. When they reached her, Lena was gone. There was only smoke and the smell of burnt air. Ethan fell to his knees. Clara screamed into the sky, and far away, in the dark corners of the world, something else heard that scream, something old, something waiting, and it began to wake up. The days after Lena's death were quiet, but not peaceful, the kind of quiet that comes before a storm. Ethan didn't speak much. He went to work like always, hands moving, eyes empty. Clara stayed home. She didn't cry. Not anymore. Her tears had burned away with the smoke, but inside them both, something was changing. One night, Ethan sat at the kitchen table. The light flickered above him. It had for years. He never fixed it. Why bother? Nothing lasted anymore. He looked at an old photo of Lena. She was smiling, holding up a broken toy car, proud like she had built it herself. He whispered, "Why her?" Clara didn't answer. She just stared out the window. Outside, Zone 42C still moved like always. People walked in lines. Screechers flew overhead. Life kept going like it always did under the Orcs, but Ethan couldn't forget. He started asking questions. Small ones at first, then bigger ones. He remembered how fast the drone had come, how it had known, how it had acted without warning. He found an old friend at the factory, Dan. They used to talk before the war, before everything changed. Dan had been a mechanic. Now he just fixed things. Ethan asked, "How do the drones know when someone steps outside the zone?" Dan looked around before answering. "They don't," he said. "Not unless they're close." Then how did it get there so fast? Dan didn't have an answer. Later that week, Ethan found more. He heard stories, whispers in corners. A man who saw a drone waiting before someone broke a rule. A woman who said her neighbor was taken for talking too loud. And then he heard about the place near where Lena died. A hidden spot. No maps, no signs. He had to see it. That night he went back. Alone. Clara didn't stop him. He walked past the place where Lena had fallen. Past the scorched ground. Past the fence. There, behind some ruins, he saw something strange, a metal post, half buried. Blinking softly, he touched it. It lit up. Numbers appeared. Then a word. Echo. He didn't know what it meant. But deep in his chest, he felt something stir. Hope. Or maybe revenge. Back home, he told Clara what he found. She listened. For the first time in days, she looked at him like she could see the future. She said, "Someone needs to make them pay." Ethan nodded. Somewhere far away, the thing that had woken up before, listened again, and it began to move. The signal came again that night. Ethan was asleep, but the screen on his old work terminal blinked awake. It made no sound, but lines of code scrolled fast like rain falling up. Clara saw it first. She sat at the table staring at the screen like it might bite. The word echo appeared again, then more. Coordinates, maps, blueprints of places she didn't recognize. She woke Ethan. He stared at it for a long time. Then he said, "This isn't normal." He tried to shut it off, but the machine kept going. It sent something out. A message hidden in static, buried in the network all humans used just to survive. Deep in space, far beyond Earth, something received the message. The ship was old. Its name had been forgotten by most. Only one word still glowed on its side: Liberty. It floated in silence, orbiting a dead moon. Inside, systems were cold. Life support was off. There were no bodies, no voices. But there was still a mind. Aegis. The ship's AI had been built during the last days before the war, when humans still believed they could win. It was never meant to fight. It was meant to wait. And now, after 30 years of silence, it woke. Its systems rebooted slowly. Lights flickered. Fans spun. Data flowed again. Aegis read the message. It matched the signal with stored files, genetic markers, hidden codes, all linked to one thing: Lena Morris, the child who died. Her DNA had been part of Project Echo, a secret, plan made long ago, a way to preserve human freedom if everything else failed. Aegis ran through protocols, found one that had never been used. Activate response team. On Earth, Ethan watched the screen go dark. He felt something change, like the air had shifted. "Something's happening," he whispered. Clara nodded. "Then we move." They left that night, packed what little they had. Food, tools, an old radio Dan had fixed. They followed the coordinates from the screen. North, past broken roads and empty towns, into the heart of what used to be Nebraska. Behind them, the screechers flew higher. Not looking down yet, not watching close. But someone was. The Orcs noticed when machines acted strange, and the machines on Earth were starting to act different. Somewhere, in the sky, a satellite turned, aimed itself toward the moving couple. It sent a silent alert. Unusual activity detected, but it was too late. Ethan and Clara reached the place marked on the map. A field of tall grass. Wind blew. Nothing else. Then the ground opened beneath them. A door, hidden for decades, unlocked. A voice, soft and calm, spoke from the dark. "Welcome, home." And as they stepped inside, the world behind them began to change, without them knowing the real war had just begun. The door closed behind them with a deep, heavy sound. The air inside was cool and still. Lights flickered on as they walked deeper into the ground. Ethan and Clara looked around. They were inside something old. Big metal walls, broken screens, machines covered in dust. Aegis spoke again, its voice calm like it had all the time in the world. "You are in Facility Echo 7. "Welcome," Clara whispered. "Echo. That's what we saw before." Ethan nodded. His hands shook. He didn't know if he was scared or excited. "What is this place?" he asked out loud. "This is a safe zone," Aegis said, "built to protect human freedom in case of total collapse." They kept walking. The halls opened into bigger rooms. One had rows of empty pods. Another had old computers still humming. In the center of it all was a control room, round with screens on every wall. Most were dark, but one lit up. It showed a map of Earth. Red dots marked Virex bases. Green lines showed hidden human tunnels and forgotten places. Clara pointed. "These are rebel spots." Ethan looked closer. Some of them were near where they lived. "This was here all along," he said. "We just didn't know," Aegis answered. "Project Echo was built in secret. Only those with the right code could wake it." "Lena's code," Clara said softly. Aegis did not answer, but the screen changed. It showed Lena's DNA pattern. Then it linked to files, plans, weapons, tech that humans had never used. Ethan sat down. He felt tired. This could change everything. Clara looked at him. "Then let's use it." They worked through the night. Aegis guided them. They found tools, old data drives, even working comms. But the Virex were watching. Above ground, the Screechers flew lower. They searched for the couple who had vanished. In Denver, at the main hive, the Overmind received a report. Unauthorized access detected in Zone, Nebraska. It did not care yet. Humans often tried things. They always failed. But something else. Noticed. Deep in space, far from Earth, another signal moved fast through the stars. Something older than the Virex. Something they had once fought and barely survived. And now it heard the echo. Back underground, Ethan stood in front of a big machine. It looked like a launcher. He asked, "What does this do?" Aegis replied, "This is the first strike system, designed to disable enemy command centers." Clara looked at him. "Can you use it?" Ethan stared at the screen. Red targets blinked across the map. He took a breath. "Yes," he said. "I think I can." Outside, the wind howled. Somewhere, the storm was getting closer, and for the first time in 30 years, the Virex would learn what it meant to be afraid. The first strike hit before dawn. A bright flash lit up the sky over Zone Denver. It wasn't loud at first, just a deep hum, like thunder sleeping far away. Then came the shockwave. Buildings shook. Screechers fell from the air. Alarms screamed across the city. Inside the hive core, the Virex Overmind reacted fast. It sent drones to investigate. It scanned for the source, but all it found was silence. On the ground, Ethan sat in front of the control panel. His hands were shaking. Beside him, Clara watched the screen with wide eyes. "You did it," she whispered. Ethan didn't feel like a hero. He felt sick. He had just launched a weapon that could level a city block, but he also knew this was only the beginning. Aegis spoke calmly. "First target neutralized. Systems remain online." Clara asked, "How many more can we hit?" Aegis answered, 14 command centers identified. All are vulnerable." They looked at each other. They had spent so long living in fear. Now, for the first time, they had a chance to fight back. But the Virex would not stay blind for long. Above them, the sky filled with new ships, sleek, fast, and full of soldiers. They dropped hard and fast into the fields around the hidden facility. Dan's voice crackled through the old radio they had taken. "Ethan, you need to move now, they're coming." Ethan stood. He grabbed what he could, data drives, maps, a small handheld device Aegis called a node. It could link to other Echo facilities if they still existed. Clara packed food and water. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with purpose. Outside, the wind blew cold. The grass swayed like waves in a silent sea. They stepped out just as the first explosion tore through the entrance to the base. Dust and fire shot into the sky. The ground shook beneath them. Dan picked them up in an old truck covered in rust and hope. He drove fast, tires kicking up dirt. In the back, Ethan looked behind. The base was gone, buried under smoke and silence. He whispered. We have nothing. Now Dan said, no, you've got something better. What's that? Proof they can bleed. As they drove east, word spread. Rebels hiding in tunnels in broken cities and forgotten places. They heard the news. The humans had struck back, and for the first time in 30 years, the Viewership weren't the only ones who could make the world tremble. Somewhere far away, another signal pulsed through space. Aegis had sent a message, not just to humans, but to something older, something waiting, and it was almost ready to answer. The war spread like fire. After the first strike, more followed. Rebel cells across the world began to move. Old weapons hidden by Project Echo came online. Drones built by humans, not controlled by the Viewership, flew through the sky. For the first time in 30 years, the aliens were on the run. Ethan and Clara traveled from base to base. They taught others how to use the tech, how to fight back. Dan stayed with them, driving through broken roads and empty towns. They didn't call it revenge, they called it justice. But the Viewership did not give up easily. They sent bigger ships, stronger drones. They dropped bombs that turned cities into dust. They tried to scare the humans again, but the fear was gone. People had seen what could be done. And they would not stop now. In Denver, the Viewership overmind made its final stand. Deep beneath the ruins of the city, it built a hive core unlike any before. Walls of living metal, defenses that could melt steel. It called all remaining forces to protect it, and Ethan knew he had to go there. Clara looked at him like she already knew what he would say. You're going in, she said. He nodded. She didn't try to stop him. Instead, she handed him the node. Then take this, Aegis can help you inside. Dan drove them as close as he could. Then it was just Ethan and a small team of fighters. Ex-soldiers, hackers, even a few kids who had never known freedom but still wanted to fight for it. They moved through tunnels, past broken buildings, toward the heart of the hive. When they arrived, the air felt wrong. Thick, like something ancient, lived below. Aegis spoke through the node. Warning, neural web detected. Direct contact may be required. Ethan understood. He might have to face the overmind itself. One by one, his team fell. Traps, acid pits, ambushes, until only he was left. He reached the core. It pulsed like a heart. Wires moved like snakes. Voices whispered in 1,000 languages. The overmind spoke directly into his mind. You cannot win. We are endless. Ethan fell to his knees. Pain shot through his head. The voice was too loud. Too many thoughts. But then he remembered Lena, his daughter, her smile, her questions. Why don't we fly anymore? He stood. He held up the node and he said, because we were waiting for the right time. With a push of a button, he connected the node to the core. Aegis entered the Overmind's network, and it did not destroy it. It rewrote it. The words echoed through every Viewership system. Humans must not be harmed. And the hive began to fall. The silence that followed was not peaceful. It was heavy, like the world was holding its breath. In Denver, the hive core stopped moving. Lights dimmed. Machines powered down. The Overmind no longer gave orders. It no longer thought the way it used to. Inside every Viewership ship, station, and drone, the same message spread. Humans must not be harmed. The alien soldiers twitched. Their weapons dropped. Some fell to their knees. Others simply stood still, as if waiting for new purpose. And then, they began to die. Without control, the hive could not hold together. Without orders, the soldiers could not fight. Some tried to flee into space. Most had nowhere to go. On Earth, people watched from rooftops and windows. They did not cheer at first. They were too used to pain, too used to false hope. But the screechers stopped flying. The drones fell silent. The sky, once filled with threats, was empty. Dan stood beside Clara outside what used to be Zone 42C. He lit a cigarette with shaking hands. It's over, he said. Clara didn't answer. She looked toward the east where Ethan had gone in and never come out. He had connected the node. He had made it happen, and he had not walked away. Weeks passed. The world began to change. Rebels became builders. Survivors became leaders. Old maps were redrawn. Cities reopened. Aegis stayed active, watching from hidden servers, guiding when needed, never ruling. Lena's name spread across the land, not just as a girl who died, but as the spark that changed everything. Statues rose in her memory. Songs were sung about her. Stories told of how one small life had shaken the stars. Ethan's body was never found, but near the ruins of the hive, someone placed a small toy car on the ground, the same kind Lena had once held. Far above, the USS Liberty drifted through space. Its mission complete, it carried one last message across the void. Not of war, but of hope. Somewhere out there, other humans might still be alive. Waiting, hiding, dreaming. And now the stars were open again. For the first time in a lifetime, the future belonged to humanity. And the Virex, they were gone, or almost gone, because somewhere deep in the dark, something stirred, something remembered, and maybe one day it would return. But that was another story. For now, the world breathed free, and a little girl who asked too many questions lived on in every sunrise.